doesn't send a tingle down your spine, nothing will. That, of course, is the fabulous Avro Vulcan. And you can tell your grandchildren you've heard the Vulcan howl, the sound of those wonderful Rolls-Royce Olympus engines, 16,500 pounds of static thrust from each of them. And that extraordinary howl that she makes when she's starting to take off. It's as if she is pawing the ground, ready to go. And you see what an amazingly agile aeroplane she is. This is a big bomber that carries 21,000 pounds of bombs, and in fact did exactly that down to the Falklands, with one of the pilots on today, Martin Withers, as the man in charge in the aircraft on the far side of the airfield, Vulcan XM607. Coming back in towards us now, flown from the left-hand seat today by Kev Rumins. This was the first B2 version of the Vulcan into RAF service. This aeroplane, XH558, flew here at Waddington on 101, 44 and 50 squadrons. They were all Waddington squadrons. She later became a maritime reconnaissance aircraft on 27 Squadron at Scampton and then a tanker. She was saved for the display flight when the rest of the Vulcans were disbanded. She finally retired from RAF service in 1993. She bears the colours of all of the Vulcan squadrons, plus the Lincoln coat of arms on the fin with the Panther's head of number 1 group on the nose. After the Royal Air Force tossed her onto the scrap heap in 1993, when Dr. Robert Fleming felt that the RAF should preserve her, but they didn't. And the end result was the Vulcan to the Sky Trust and the start of a unique campaign to get her back into the air. A campaign that lived on a knife edge since its earliest days. And there have indeed been many near disasters, financially speaking, but always she seems to come through. She costs £2 million a year to run this aircraft. That's about £38,500 every week. That has to be raised. She's not paid for in any way by the taxpayer, the Royal Air Force or the government. She is entirely funded by help from industry and the great British people. So more about how you can help in a moment, but let's keep our eyes on the display, because as she comes round this time, I think we'll see the bomb doors open, and inside the bomb bay that carried 21,000 pounds of bombs, there are now the names of people who've contributed and who've paid to have their names inside that enormous bomb bay. Much of the fundraising is done by the Vulcan to the Sky Club, which has more than 8,000 members, one of the biggest aviation heritage support clubs in the world. So she does continue to need everybody's help. I'll tell you more about how you can provide that. Just a word about who's flying her today. Kev Rumins is the man, the captain in the left-hand seat. Martin Withers, he's in the right-hand seat. He's the co-captain, and he's the man who flew that other Vulcan on the other side of the airfield down to the Falkland Islands. Phil Davis is the air electronics officer. He's the third member of the crew, and he is a man who works for Selex Galileo, and they've been enormously helpful to this whole project, so we're particularly grateful to them. See, she can tiptoe in when she wants to. The Americans used to call her the aluminum overcast because when she flies over, the sky goes dark. But actually, She is about the same size as a small Airbus airliner, almost the same dimensions. But of course she does have this amazing triangular shape, designed in 1946 by the wonderful Roy Chadwick, the man who designed the Lancaster bomber. And in fact this aeroplane flew only 11 years after the Lancaster. We saw the Lancaster earlier. Only 11 years after that, this aeroplane flew, and you might think that they were from different centuries, but no, only 11 years separated them. In fact, she's so graceful that if you extend her length by about 1.75, you get the shape of Concorde, and she is a predecessor of Concorde. Double spiral climb is a new part of the display. You might have noticed that she had the air brakes out. Those are those big brakes that stick out the top and bottom of the wing while she was doing that. That's because they thought the double spiral climb was a very good idea, but if they hadn't got the air brakes out, she'd have been up to 10,000 feet by now and we'd be losing sight of her. So they keep the air brakes out. And now you'll see that Kev Rumens has got the wheels down, and he's going to do a low overshoot. So coming in from the left along the runway, you'll see him come down to quite close to the ground, and then he'll put the power on again, and maybe we'll hear the Vulcan howl for the third time today. And he'll go round before coming in for his final landing. When she does land, you'll be able to go down and see the Vulcan village off to the left-hand end of the display ground. You'll be able to meet some of the crew there later, and all sorts of other things happen there. You can try to land the Vulcan yourself on the Vulcan simulator. You can join the Vulcan to the Sky Club. You can make a note of the website, vulcantothesky.org, all the W's, vulcantothesky.org. And we'll just wait for Kev to come in before I tell you a couple of other things you could be doing. Wheels up, coming on in just a moment. Again, that amazing maneuverability. Within a few hours of her very first flight back in 1952, she was being rolled all the way over like a fighter. And in fact, she does have fighter control sticks inside, the one-handed fighter control stick instead of the sort of yoke that you would normally expect in a big bomber. She was even rolled at the Farnborough Air Show, before they eventually decided that perhaps they oughtn't to do that, but spoiled sports really, weren't they? I actually was there when she was rolled. I saw her being rolled. She was painted bright white in those days, and it was an amazing event. But you can see from the steepness of the banks that Kev Rumens manages to achieve that she is still just as maneuverable as ever she was. Now, I was saying earlier that it's costing about £38,500 a week in, week out, to keep this aeroplane flying. So we really do need you to help. So please do go down to the Vulcan village, or you can go to the Vulcan to the Sky Club stand, which is behind the control tower, not very far from the Air Warfare Centre. And the other thing you could do is you could get your mobile phone out. You could do that now. Get your mobile phone out and text the word Vulcan, V-U-L-C-A-N, to 70558. A number, of course, 558. So text Vulcan to 70558, and that will cost you £5 on your bill, plus a text charge, and about £4.50 of that is guaranteed to go to the Vulcan to the Sky Trust. So this is the end of the Vulcan display for today. Kev Rumans bringing the magnificent old lady. After 30 years of commentating, I have never seen an aeroplane that affects people as much as this one. Me included, as you may be able to tell. 16 wheels down, 2 to go. 16 wheels in the main undercarriage, and Kev keeping the nose up, letting the oncoming air flow